Okay, first of all, I just want to brush the salt off. This is the results of the previous video. And so I'm going to do a little bit of thinking on this one. By the way, the next one, you're going to be able to plan what you're going to do with it ahead of time. So we've got our redder, deeper areas. They're a nice mid-tone, I guess. By the way, I love some of these subtle little areas where the red was already setting in the paper and the green was newer on there, and when I dropped the salt in, you could see it move the green and some of the red shows through. I think that's just really cool. It's minor and pale, and it's really, in the final analysis, not going to be that important, but I just love it. Here you can see there's a little bit of a reddish dot in where the salt actually was. And then that's pushed the green, because this was a paler area too. Okay, so I want some of my flowers to come over these dark areas. So I'm going to aim this right about there, and then I'm going to trace it off, and then I'll be back. By the way, you can see here that I have run a long piece of tape along the edge so that this is stable. It's not going to squish around. You know, sometimes people just try to clip a little spot over here and everything moves, and they have a real problem, especially if there's a face. Okay, so this can flop like this, okay, and where this flower goes over this area, I'm going to have to do something really strong there to make the flower show up. Okay, so I'm going to trace this off. Okay, so what we're looking at here is that some of the image that I traced off has gone into an area of stronger color, and some of it is in this path of light. And so what I would suggest is we want to bring these flowers forward by making them stronger, that is, painting the flower more strongly. These in the background, we mostly want to negatively paint around them with just enough detail in the interior that you can tell what they are. But in some places on these, we want to leave the original color showing through. That's the only way that they will really stand out. If you start to fill these in with color, they will just die here on the spot. All right, so I have got more of the red mixed, and I have some Prussian blue here. And I can't really make up my mind which one to use, except that a really smart person might have some swatches and that they could test on. That would be a really smart person. Okay, but what I'm going to do is just put some color in here. So what I want to do is I want to see these buds up here emerge. I've got to get in here close on it. And okay. And I'm working very, very wet, which is very useful again because my colors will flow together. And because, oh, that's an odd shape there. Okay, so a big part of what will define this plant is going to be this outside image. So you want to get the shapes in there accurately, because the silhouette is the answer. So here I am dropping the blue into the red because I still haven't made up my mind. I'm just messing with it. Huh. Well, that might be interesting. We'll see. I'm using two pigments, well, three, but a mixture, and then the Prussian blue. But I'm using two pigments in order. Let's see. Let's get more red here. And I may let them mix and do something a little bit exciting. I can't paint and talk at the same time. I'm having to really focus here to try to see my plant. Well, that needs to flow. And over here, I think I'm going to have to tickle it around a little bit. There. So now it looks blended. But what are we going to do about this edge? We're working very wet, and because we're working very wet, we can come in here and dampen this edge. There we go. There. Okay. So let's do the other side. I'm going to have to turn it because I'm right-handed, and quite frankly, I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing here. I have some glare. I hope you don't have glare trying to watch. So still, I want to imitate what I did on the other side, on this side, because you don't want it to change right there behind the stem. There's just a lot of detail in here. So I went over my traced image with my pencil before I started this area in the dark areas, because where there's it's not necessarily just because it's dark, it's also because there's some activity there. I want to keep this wet, so what I might even do is I might even add some water out here just to make sure that everything stays wet. Okay, so let's still come in with the red. This has some really interesting negative space in it. That's what the thing that I enjoy about hollyhocks the most, is the way they climb up the stem. There's all these open spaces in between, and I'm gonna blot that edge there. So let's come back with a little more of the, what I needed, as I was speaking about negative space, right there. It's a little bit of negative space, and right there. Okay, yeah. See, I want all those little things. This makes this two little tiny shapes, and this one here, we enjoy having those tiny shapes. That really makes your painting more interesting. You want a variety of sizes of shapes, whether you're working with, if you were working with, and even with an abstract, that was something that you would want to think about. Just get, I don't know if I can even, that's just too much. Well, maybe not, I'll leave it. So again, I want this to flow. And I might have to just pull, this is a clean brush now, And I'm just pulling color, moving it around. See, and that shape right there, that would be okay to leave that shape there between the blue and the red. But I'm going to play with moving it a little bit. And whoa, some of this is still flowing. So I'm making a pattern right there because I tilted. This was wetter and that was drier. See, I'm getting an edge there. It could be a pretty thing, but I think that's not going to be. I want to break it up. I don't necessarily want to get rid of it. There's something there I like, but I don't want this. There's kind of a line coming right through there, and I don't want that. So over here, maybe I'm adding in a little bit of water, so I'm probably going to get a little bit of texture in there. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of texture, but you want it to be a really soft movement of color. You don't want a lot of busyness there. Okay, so that's an example of the background. You want to do that in everywhere that you're overlapping a darker area. This area out in here, I want to, have the eraser in my hand. This area out in here, I want to do just the opposite. I wanted to strengthen the pencil line in here, mostly on this outside edge of the plant, so that I could see to make the silhouette. In here, I don't want my image to be too dark, and I might actually see if I could lift it just a little bit. Always be very gentle with your watercolor paper. That is, if you're using good paper, you need to be gentle. Okay, so I just weakened that a little bit. So you're going to darken these areas in behind, and that's the end of part 2.